I'm the protagonist.
I'm the protagonist of this operation.
Hello, YouTube's Leisure Tech. Today we're going to be talking about the movie Tenet, made by Christopher Nolan. Today we're going to be discussing the 4K UHD Blu-ray release of the movie, as I was not able to see this in theaters because of COVID. This video is going to be a review of not just the movie itself, but it's also going to be a review of the video and audio quality for home theater. First thing that I need to talk about whenever we're talking about the movie Tenet is I need to talk to you about the audio of Tenet. For whatever reason, Christopher Nolan still is not embracing the Dolby Atmos or DTS:X audio format for his movies. This is a Dolby True HD mix, so that means it's a 7.1 surround sound. There's no use of any hide effects at all in this movie. That has been the case for all of Christopher Nolan's films. He has not used Dolby Atmos or DTS:X. I don't know why. He's definitely very much a visual storyteller, and that is definitely going to be the case here in Tenet. He is all about visual storytelling and not so much about the audio. Now, that's not to say that this movie doesn't have a bombastic audio track. It certainly does. It's just audio doesn't seem to be as important to Christopher Nolan as visual storytelling is. So I've seen the movie 3 times now, and I enjoyed it the very first time I watched it, but I had some questions. The second time I watched the movie, I was infuriated. I definitely disliked the movie a lot on my second viewing. But after seeing it a third time, I enjoyed it a lot more. I stopped trying to answer all the questions that the movie automatically fills your brain with, and I just strapped in and went along for the ride. The issues with the audio definitely still remained. On my second viewing, I actually watched it with the subtitles on, and I found this to be a little bit ironic that the English subtitles are English for the deaf or hard of hearing. I found that to be a little bit ironic because, you know, even though I like really loud, aggressive music, and I like loud, aggressive movies, I don't think I'm hard of hearing, and I don't think that my issues with the audio in this movie had to do with me having any kind of audio issues of my own. With subtitles on, there is a scene a third of the way through the movie where they're planning their heist, their first heist of the movie. It's not much of a spoiler. It's been shown in the trailers where what they're doing with the airplane and crashing it into a building. While the setup for that heist is being explained, the captions for the movie literally have 2 sequences where it says dialogue continues indistinguishable, and then another sequence where the caption says inaudible. So it's not just that you can't hear it. It's been a choice by Christopher Nolan for you to not be able to hear what is being explained or what is being planned for the scene in the movie. Another problem with the audio for this movie is the LFE, or the bass in the movie, is really overdone. It's used really well in the action scenes, but in other scenes where there really shouldn't be much bass and you should just let the scene play out, it feels like the low frequency is just overbearing the scene of the film. There's a scene in the beginning of the movie where the protagonist, which is the main character's name in this movie, he doesn't actually have a name, he goes by the protagonist. He's having a dialogue scene with another character in the film who plays a very minor role, and they're on a ship. And since with my surround sound setup, it usually wouldn't be an issue, but there was so much LFE and so much bass response during that scene that it overpowered the scene, and I had to actually turn my subwoofers really low so that way I could understand what was going on in that scene. Moving on to talking about the visuals, this is by far and away the best looking Christopher Nolan film, and that's saying something. Christopher Nolan, he knows how to shoot a movie. He knows how to make film look good. He loves the IMAX format, and he utilizes it here very well. And with this movie, you kind of lose that window effect. Whenever you're watching a film, it has that window effect. You recognize that you're watching something beyond a certain plane. Here, it's just so pristine and detailed and rich that it almost hurts your eyes to look at it in some moments. And I'm not saying it almost hurts your eyes to look at it as a negative thing. It's beautiful. And you completely forget that you're watching a screen and you have something in front of you that you're viewing instead of just watching something happen directly in front of you. It's absolutely beautiful. Taking aside the video and how good it looks, and then the audio issues, you come back to the movie itself. Christopher Nolan has always been someone to push a concept forward as the driving focus of a movie. He loves messing around with time and the idea of time in his movies. But the movie Tenet, it feels like it was a concept that just got pushed towards production. Like, let's not worry about filling out the rest of the movie with plot and character development. You have a great concept. Don't worry about explaining the concept. Let's just push it straight to production and get it filmed. The reason why I feel that way watching this movie, we have a main character who doesn't have a name, which is not the first time this has happened. He did the same thing in the movie Memento, but Memento pulled it off much better. This movie, the main character literally refers to himself in the third person on more than one occasion as the protagonist.
I'm the protagonist of this operation. I'm the protagonist.
I've never actually heard someone refer to themselves as a protagonist of their own story. It's very on the nose, it is very generic, and there's no character development for him. John David Washington's performance in the movie is really great. He's definitely ready to be a leading man in Hollywood. He carries the film despite not having any character arc or plot development for himself. Everything he does in the film is driven around the concept of the movie. The only two characters that really have any form of character arc are Robert Pattinson's Neil and Kenneth Branagh's Sador. First, I just want to say I love Kenneth Branagh. You add Kenneth Branagh to any movie, and that movie instantly is better. He is so over the top. He hams up every scene that he's in, but in such a wonderful way. I love seeing him, and watching this really made me want to go back and watch one of my favorite movies, which is his version of Hamlet. I love it, but you have to have enough time to dive into that. But we're not here to talk about that today. All of these characters, there's not much in the way of character development or actual plot. Everything here is to serve the concept of time inversion. Even the character Laura, who, if you were to compare her to, other people have made the same comparison. If you were to compare this to a James Bond movie, Laura would be basically the Q character. She's in the movie for only one scene, and that scene is the scene where they are explaining to John David Washington's protagonist the concept of time inversion, but they spend so little time explaining the concept, she literally says, stop trying to make sense of it, or don't try to understand it. Even at the end of the movie, when a character in the movie even asks a question that helps have some form of understanding of what is going on or what could happen, could things be done differently with the time concept now that you have a knowledge of what's going on, the only answer that is given is what's happened. So, again, it just feels like a concept that was pushed into production with no extra thought to plot or character development, and it just they had a concept that he came up with and he just wanted to film it. Christopher Nolan, he is a great director. I love all of his movies. I'm probably going to do a ranking video on my favorite Christopher Nolan films. He is one of my favorite directors, and I know Hollywood has definitely given him a blank check, but that can be kind of a dangerous thing. With George Lucas, they gave they didn't give George Lucas a blank check. He was an independent filmmaker. And for the first Star Wars films, the first three, the original one, he made the original Star Wars movie. For Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, he helped come up with the story, but he passed it off to other directors, and other people were helping produce him and helping him flesh out the story. And so those two movies went really well. On the prequel trilogy, which now with some time in between us and whenever those movies came out, and definitely with the sequel trilogy being out, those prequel trilogies were not looked at very well because George Lucas was just telling the story he wanted to tell, and he didn't care what anyone else had to say. I think we're getting dangerously close to approaching that for Christopher Nolan here. He has his concepts and his ideas that he wants to put on screen, but he doesn't care if you hear it or if he even explains to you what you're seeing. Part of enjoying a movie is understanding what's going on. At least with Interstellar, they take the time to explain to you the math and the science behind everything. Inception goes to great lengths to explain to you all the different sequences regarding the dreams. And this movie, little to no attempt is made at actually explaining the time inversion. And then with the audio and not being able to hear all of the dialogue or being able to hear what is being expressed in the movie, and with the subtitles literally saying that it is inaudible or indistinguishable, it was almost insulting on my second watch. On my third viewing, I just sat back and I relaxed. I allowed the movie to just take me on a ride. And it's a great ride. And that is something that Christopher Nolan definitely excels at. He is a very strong visual storyteller. And I did enjoy this movie. I just I expected more out of a Christopher Nolan film, and I do ultimately feel I was let down. So whenever it comes to my ratings for this film, I'd give the movie itself a 3 out of 5. The video quality is a 5 out of 5, and the audio is a 2 out of 5. Christopher Nolan definitely needs to rethink his strategy about his audio mixes and letting the audience actually hear the character dialogue. That was my opinion on the movie Tenet. What did you think? I thought the movie was a little bit underwhelming, and it could have been a lot better with a little bit more time spent in production. Leave a comment below, let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, click on like, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Until next time, everyone, take care.
I'm the protagonist.